Hi. This week on Life with Jimmy and More, I have a bit of a different guest, and his name is Martin. And Martin is a man who really will tell you some stories from the other side of the table. He is just such an awesome and lovely guy. And I think that what you'll hear in this episode is you'll hear how important it is for us to really think about what it is like for the other person that we care for. Have a listen. Enjoy. Martin, how you doing?
Hello. I'm very well, Steve. Yourself?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Martin, It is a real pleasure to be sitting here and talking to you, my man.
Yeah.
It is awesome, mate. And I kind of want to tell the listeners out there kind of who you are a little bit, okay? Because
Yes.
just fill them in, and then I'm going to pass it to you. So Martin is my cousin, and
Yeah.
Martin is just an awesome guy. I've got a lot of time for Martin, and that's why I've got him on here, because I want to hear about you, Martin. So
Okay.
Martin, can you tell us about you?
Okay. As you're all aware, my name's Martin. I was born in Auckland, New Zealand, and I was born 3 months prematurely, and I was born with cerebral palsy. And I was born in the 80s as well. So.
That's right. And Martin, you said 3 months premature, right?
Yes, that's correct.
That's massive. And how much did you weigh? Because you were a very special boy when you were young.
Yes, I was told that I weighed half a pound, which is about 250 grams, and yeah.
Wow, that is just that just really blows my mind, man.
And I could fit inside the palm of my mum's hand or my dad's hand, you know.
Yeah, that is. I'm just going to look at my hand now, because my hand can't be much different than your dad's hand, right? So,
no.
That just blows me away, and I kind of, I'm sure there's people listening now who are just can't maybe comprehend that, and it's a tough one to comprehend. So, you spent how long were you in hospital for again?
I was in hospital for 2 years, so right up until I was 2. And then after that, I went home with an oxygen tank, I think.
Right.
So I was in hospital for a long time.
Wow. And so this is in the 80s, right? This is now we're talking.
Yeah.
So okay, so you went home with an oxygen tank, and I guess that you were back into hospital quite regularly, I guess. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. I was told that my lungs hemorrhaged when I was outside of hospital, so I had to go back in. And it came right, but I'm lucky I'm here, really.
Okay. So you are very lucky, and we're lucky to have you, man. I'm lucky to have you as a cousin. That is just absolutely for real. So I want to. How has cerebral palsy affected you in your life?
Well, it's affected, I think the most part is the way I learn, and it takes me longer to learn new tasks. Although having said that, I always get there in the end. I don't give up on things. But also it affects my movement slightly. And I walk with a slight limp.
Right.
And it just makes those milestones. It made it a bit harder for me to do, which I should have reached, and it took longer. It just took longer for me to do. But yeah.
How can you like thinking back to parts in your life? Were there parts in your life where you were like, man, this is tough. Like
Yeah.
I am different, which is
Yes.
okay to be
Yes.
different, right?
Yep.
I am
Yeah.
different.
Everyone's got different in their some ways. Yep.
Were there? Did you have moments of frustration with this, with yourself more than anything?
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Even when I was younger, I would have been about 9, and I struggled to tie my shoelaces together.
Mm,
I could not grasp tying a shoelace, and that was when I was younger. I felt that way, and it, just simple tasks that I couldn't do, which it made it difficult for me. But no matter how many times I got shown things or something like that, I just couldn't grasp. But in the
mm.
end, I did. So yeah,
So it was so you were kind of, you didn't, like you said before, you didn't give up. You were like,
no,
I just want to keep doing this. I got to keep trying this. And I think that's all credit
yes,
to you, man, because I think it's,
mm,
you just were, a real fighter. And it comes back to, you,
yeah,
how you were born again. Like, you're born
yes,
250 grams or
mm, mm,
thereabouts. And here you are, um, 36 years old,
mm,
and we're having this conversation. And we're having this conversation, Martin, because I think that we kind of had a accidental conversation last week, didn't we? Because
that's correct. Yes, yeah,
you kind of gave me a call, and I ended up calling you back, and we ended up chatting, and I realized,
mm,
Marty, that
mm,
like I thought this is a really good opportunity to hear your story, because while the podcast that I'm doing here is about the dad's journey, and it's about how we move through and the challenges that we have as dads, is that
yeah,
I was like, I think this is a really good opportunity to hear from the other side of
yes,
the table, because it is
yes,
so important to hear this. And it often,
yes,
again, is not heard. And I think
mm, mm,
we need to hear this. And this is why we're doing
yeah,
this. And I'm so grateful that you have agreed to this, because it is
yes.
not something that everyone wants to do.
No, that's
Um,
right.
and it is your story. This is
Mm,
your story,
mm,
your
mm,
journey.
mm,
Um,
And I'm
and
always learning. I'm always learning new things.
yeah. Well, what is the what would like? Let's just jump to that, because what's the most recent thing for you that you have learnt? You've been like, yeah, I've tried and tried and tried, and now I can do this. What is the most recent thing for you?
The most recent thing for me, if we probably about a couple of years ago, if I can elaborate on that,
Go for it.
um, it's basically getting my license. Driving for
Mm,
me was a big, big achievement. When
that's
I
awesome.
started out at 16, I didn't think I could do it. I got knocked back with my eyesight, and we went to two different doctors, and one of them said I'd be fine, the other one said I wouldn't be. And then they were persistent in that, and then just having to concentrate on my drive and what I was meant to do. I came close to failing a few times, but that's okay. I just did it again, and I didn't give up.
Mm,
And for those who are listening, with disabled children, um, I would say, don't let them give up if they want to do
mm,
something. And because there's many different ways of doing things, different things, but they can do things. And
mm,
and you just got to believe in them, really.
mm, mm.
That's what. And I've got my full license. I've had that for 2 years now. I drive around a lot,
That's awesome.
and yeah, and that was my biggest achievement to date, I think.
How did you
That
feel,
I
Marty, when you got that? When you, because you would have been 34, thereabouts, right? When you got your full license, yeah.
Yeah. I got it. Sorry, I got it in. Sorry, it was 2000 and sorry, it was 2018. Sorry, when I
Okay,
got it.
that's all right.
Okay, but yeah, I was in my 30s.
In your 30s, yeah. So
I would have been,
and
yeah.
and I know very much so that in New Zealand, to get around, to go and see people, to go and do shopping,
Yeah,
to go and
yeah.
just do these things,
Have a
having
life,
your own
really.
car,
Yeah, yeah.
it's massive, isn't it? Having your
Oh,
own,
yeah,
being able to hop in the car and drive yourself
yeah,
somewhere is
yeah,
massive, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's a game
Exactly.
changer,
Yeah,
right?
because I don't think the transport system's improved much. But
No,
yeah,
it's got a long way to go.
yeah. It's not
So,
like Japan's. No.
no. So how, like, I want to, like, as a guy, like, when you were able to do this, can you try and just walk us through how you really felt when you were like, I'm at that first time that you started that car and you were on your own in that car. No one else is in that car. You were on your own in that car, and you were like, I'm driving this car.
Yeah, and that was a big relief for me, and it told me that no matter what anyone thinks of it, I can do it. And
Mm.
and after I sat the full license test, and he came back and he said, no, that was a perfect drive, and he said you passed, and I was emotional, crying about that because
Well, that's
I've
awesome, man.
done it.
That's beautiful.
I've done it, and I've got it, and for me personally, it was a big achievement again,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful for all the things I can do now. So yeah,
It's just so good. And like probably, other things in your life, Marty, is that there would have been people who have helped you with this, right? It
oh
has,
definitely, yep.
like, there have been, instrumental. I'd say there have been kind of some instrumental people who have helped you out, allowed you to, for you yourself to kind of break through
Mm,
those kind of barriers
mm.
of like, okay, I'm going to keep on trying this and all that. So like, what
Yeah.
it's
Not
got to
only
be.
that, it sort of teaches myself because it teaches myself where I don't, because I've done it, I know what it's like, and I don't give up on other people too.
Mm,
If they fail, who cares? We'll do it again, do it again till you pass.
mm,
And that's taught me not to give up, and that's what
yeah.
it's taught me. Mm,
You got a lot of determination there, Martin. I tell
mm,
you, a lot of determination. And hearing you talk like this, man, it makes me, think to myself, and I think, man, I sometimes I just need to have a bit more determination sometimes because
mm,
you know, um, because it is inspiring, and I think that I, we obviously we're cousins, and we haven't had like huge amounts of kind of time kind of hanging out together. I mean, we talked about this last week. Is that like our grandfather was really instrumental in getting us together, wasn't he?
Yeah, very much so. Whether it be every Christmas or we'd probably go down once a month.
Mm,
But he was the glue that held our family together,
mm,
and but it's for me, it's always a joy to whenever I get to talk to you or whether it be Katrina, it's always a joy to talk to you and keep in touch anyway, no matter where we are in the world. This
yeah,
is a good thing about internet.
it is.
um,
Yeah, it is,
yes.
man.
So yeah, Granddad was a big factor in family
Mm.
life growing up, and so was Nan.
Yeah, and Nan,
I
of
had
course,
fond
because Nan was
memories.
in the wheelchair, wasn't she?
She was, yep, she was, and she never once complained. I didn't ever hear her complain.
No. I heard
And
she definitely gave a lot of stick to Granddad. I remember that. Like there was, she would have a good go at him, which is good on her.
yeah,
But it was such a like I realized, Marty, that having having Jamie in my life, it allowed me to really think. I started to kind of go back into my past and my life, and I thought, man, like, yeah, like there was Nan. Like Nan was in the wheelchair, and I don't remember her not being in the wheelchair, right?
No, neither.
It was,
Right, yeah.
and if I can't remember that, I'm pretty sure that for you it was the same.
It was definitely the same.
Yeah, and it was just how it was. It was how it was, and
yeah,
but
yeah,
but coming back to you, Marty, because this is your story here.
yeah.
The question here I want to ask you, which is how do you feel when people describe you as disabled or special needs?
That to me, that's part of who I am, but it's not actually the whole of me. I like to be thought of as being kind, being able to work together as a team, and being able to be given the opportunities, and to succeed, because that's what we all want. We all want better. But
can I ask why that? Can I ask why that actually, like, is having that label essentially? How does that? Does it make you feel like you've got a challenge, something there which you don't like that label? It's the wrong label for you, or what can you expand on that for us a little bit?
It's, to me, it's not about the label, but it's about when they know. It's about being treated differently, and that is the big thing. I mean, it doesn't bother me if people know I've got a disability or mild disability. It doesn't bother me, but it's not having the same opportunities there as everybody else, and that is really what gets me, because in my heart of hearts, I know I can do things, and I know I can do it, but it's having to prove to other people, that I can do it, and it may take me a bit longer to do that, but it's just being able to be given the opportunity to do it, to do these things.
Yeah. So it's kind of like would you say it's a bit of a love-hate relationship you have with the label?
Yes. Yep. No, I would definitely say that. Yeah, because I love who I am, and I don't want to change who I am. But at the same time, I think as soon as people know that you've got a disability, or they think, well, he or she can't do this or that, or or they don't think it's possible, and that's what really gets to me. Because if you're a person that knows you can do something, that sort of that really does get me. That just to be treated as equal.
Yeah.
And not any different.
Not any different.
Yeah.
Do you? I kind of going a bit deep on this, because I think it's important, because I as a parent and as a dad of a child who has a special need, for me personally to kind of label that he has he has a special need, and that for me that's actually important to kind of recognize, because it allows me to understand. And I've really recently realized that, of course, he has well, not of course, because some people don't know, but I kind of did a bit of a self-diagnosis on it, that he is autistic as well. And the moment for me that I realized that he is absolutely autistic as well, is that was it changed me. Okay, it allowed me as his dad to be able to be like, I know this, and even though it's just a label, it allows me to give myself some understanding.
Yes. Yeah.
And
of what it is and stuff. Things like that. Yeah.
Of how I can react to stuff. That was probably the biggest thing for me, Martin, was to actually, and so, but we come around to the other side of the table for yourself, who has cerebral palsy, and of course, not a lot of people really. There are people who know the name but don't quite know what it is as well, right? So maybe we should let's just talk about that, because cerebral palsy, it's a very wide spectrum, Martin.
It's broad,
as I'm sure.
It's broad.
It's super broad, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so for you, like, we've already heard a couple of things that you've found struggles with, and you've got.
Yeah.
You said you got a little bit of a limp. I think you said, is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
And what is there anything else? Is there anything else that for you, cerebral palsy has, that has kind of been part of your life? So how is cerebral palsy other things that's been part of your life? How's it?
It's just, I think I learn differently from other people. I learn, instead of telling me what to do, I'm better to be shown.
Right. And that's interesting. Okay. So
that's how I learn.
Okay. So if someone says, okay, like this is how it is done. You push this, and this. You put this in here. So you're
this is really basic.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. No, I definitely learn better to be shown.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're shown and physically, if someone shows you and physically does it with you, if you're physically pushing it, that's also a good thing, or what?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. If I'm there with someone that's showing me, I think I can pick it up a bit more better.
Okay.
Than it was like at school, really.
Yeah. Okay.
So
if someone was to give you a task, if someone gave you a task, Marty, and said, okay, right, can you go? I want you to go do this, and it's something that you maybe haven't done before. That is a real world challenge for you?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
And it's having people, like some people, when you meet people for the first time, Martin, sorry, when you meet people for the first time, how do you approach it? Like,
I'm confident for a start, and I'm just myself, and just being who I am. And if some people can see, but other people go, oh, I didn't know you were any different. Some people can't tell.
How do you feel? How do you feel when people say that?
They say, "Oh, we didn't know unless you told me." That feels good. But I know that if I tell them, if they're really good friends, then they wouldn't treat me any differently. But some people in society do. But that's how it is for me anyway. And that's why I learn as well.
Awesome. We kind of touched on schooling just now, so let's go to that. So how was your schooling? Like, were you mainstreamed? Were you in a special class or a separate school? Like, honestly, I can't remember myself how else was it.
It's a whole broad range of things. I was on the whole, I was main schooled, and I went to primary school and intermediate, and I did go to high school for a time. But I felt, and this is where my frustration came in, although I didn't know it at the time, but I do now. Now I'm an adult. I felt as though I didn't get the help I needed in the education system. I was pushed to one side. And it wasn't until I left school, and even now, that I realized that there's not an education system in the world, I don't think, that is able to help disabled people properly and what they should be doing. For me,
Yeah.
yes. Primary school was good, but as I can remember, I got I think about once or twice a week I got some help with my classes. But
Okay,
that
so
wasn't all
once
the
or
time.
twice a week, someone came into your class,
Yep,
and
yep,
for the whole
and that was
day, or just
uh, yeah. Well, that was when I was first starting out at primary school, so
right?
pretty much yes.
Okay.
Um, and then when I got to intermediate school, but that stopped in about standard 3 or 4.
Mm,
I struggled at school. I was
mm,
put back a year,
right. Okay.
and so I
How
had
did you
to
how did
reset.
you feel about that? How did you feel about being put back a year? Did you have a choice in that, or was it kind of just how it happened?
It was how it happened. It was really what was best at the time for me.
Mm. How did you
I
feel?
did,
Because your friends would have gone. Your friends would have kept on going then, Martin. Right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
how was how was that?
I suppose at the time, I guess my mind, I don't think like I did then.
Mm,
Um, but at, at, at the time, for me, I felt, um, I felt a bit disappointed in myself at the time,
mm,
for that. Um, but I think as well, I think that helped me as well,
mm,
because it gave me that extra year to grow, I think, as a
mm.
person. Um,
That's good though.
but
So okay, so
yeah,
you feel that it again mixed emotions with it? Would you say?
yes, I do remember. Um, at the time, it was, but now I realise that it was for my own good,
Mm. Did you
and to help
did
me.
you lose friends? Did you gain friends in that kind of trip? Because that's a transition with schooling. Which way did it go for you?
I gained a lot of friends,
Mm.
and in standard
That's good.
4, we always used to play cricket and
Mm.
soccer, football. So I actually gained a lot of friends, and I moved on from primary school and intermediate, or you call it something different over there, but intermediate school, for me, that was hard. That was
Right. So that's when
different,
it kind of got
and
more challenging.
indeed, and that's when we had detentions. So, um, so
Did you say
yeah,
detentions? Did you say you got
yeah,
detentions?
yeah. If we're being honest, I got detentions, Steve. Yeah,
Yeah, didn't we
uh,
all? I mean, like, hey, like,
yeah.
what was it? What actually? Do you know why you got any of them? Would you
It
remember?
was mostly for not being able to finish my work and
Ah,
not being able
okay,
to
that's
finish
interesting.
my homework.
Okay, so so you weren't able to finish your homework, so they punished you
Mm,
by having a
mm,
detention, which means you had to stay
mm,
behind. Those who don't know,
mm,
you had to stay behind after school,
mm.
right?
Or at lunchtime.
Or at
Most of
lunch.
it was
Oh,
at
that's right. Yeah.
lunch.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you couldn't go outside and play with your friends. You had to stay in your
Mm,
classroom
mm,
and finish off your homework.
mm,
So you were kind of punished in a way, Marty.
mm, mm,
I just want to
mm.
kind of highlight this because there could be someone who's listening to this as an educator who, and I don't know whether the world is like this now, but it's kind of like that's how it was, and this is your story, right? This is
Yes.
exactly your story. This is exactly what it's all about. So
Mm.
okay, so you went into kind of intermediate school. And intermediate school, for those who are listening, is a bit like a junior high. It's a mix of kind of the back end of like elementary, primary into
Yes.
kind of junior high kind of.
Yes.
It's like
So
a
it's about
two
this.
year. It's a 2 year kind of. Is it 2 year? It's like a two
Yeah.
year kind of
So
phase. Yeah.
from about maybe 11 at the most, maybe 13, pushing on 13. But yeah, around that 11, 12, maybe 13,
Yeah.
which I was. So,
So you so,
uh,
so
yeah,
your experience in you had a really good experience in primary, which is elementary,
yeah,
and then
lots of things, lots of,
lots
yeah,
of fun, and then
yeah.
it started to change. But of course, like you went into mainstream. Was there any talk when you went into intermediate and then onto high school? Was there any discussion or any talk about, okay, well, like these are the options, Martin, for you, like, you can go here, you can go there, or it was like this is where what you're gonna do?
Now that came much later.
Oh, right, okay.
But that is the case. That came in high school. I guess I was about fifth form.
Right.
And I just got swamped with schoolwork, and I couldn't do it. And it got to the point where I was put back to doing 2 classes a day, and so I had 3 periods of where I didn't do anything. So I sit in the library, and
by yourself.
And that, yep. And that went on for a while,
So was there? That's fascinating. They were like, okay, you're going to go into the class. You'd spend 2 classes with your mainstream class, and then the others would be in the library, working, doing your own study.
Yeah.
How did that impact? Sorry, Martin. I want to just ask you, how did that impact your friendships?
Well, if I'm totally honest, at high school, I didn't really have any friends. So, I stuck to myself. I was into my music, and I was in the high school football team. Was soccer, football, and so I used to play that, and so I had one really nice, good teacher at high school. She was an excellent teacher, and she was really nice. She helped me, and she was my music teacher, and she was really, really good. And but apart from that, I was into my music. I was into my football, but I either spent my lunchtimes in the music room, or I don't know. I just spent it by myself. Really, yeah. So
it's kind of tough. It must have been tough, man, because I think for high school and kind of intermediate and into high school, which is junior high and high school, those are they're pretty crucial years with how we are as kind of people growing up and kind of getting into life, right? And it's hard to hear. It's hard to hear that how it was, money, because I didn't know. Like and I think by the time that you were kind of going through that, I think actually I was I'm kind of about 9 years older than you, so I was actually my 20s, and I was heading off to the UK.
You were probably in London right at the time,
yeah. So and I just again had no idea as to what was really going on and what world that you were in with your schooling, right? So it was tough, and I kind of
sorry, Steve, if I can just elaborate on something. I got put in that position because the schoolwork was too much. I couldn't legally leave school till I was 16. And they thought, well, it's just getting too hard for him. So that's why they did it. I don't think there was any malice. I don't think there was any malice in that, but that's the best that they could do for me.
Were there others like you, Martin, with disabilities or special needs around you? Were there others?
Yes. They had a class. I think we went for must have been about an hour a day. Sometimes, not all the time, where they took us out of class, and we would go over the basic maths, basic English, and there were a lot of there's probably about 10 of us in this class, and even so, they didn't. I don't think they felt they knew what level we were all at, because we're all different. So it just it was just somewhere to go. I guess, yeah.
So it was a class like that for an hour a day. Was it an hour a day? You said. Sorry, I kind of missed that.
Yeah, I'd say about twice a week, an hour a day.
Okay.
So it's about 2 hours. About 2 hours in a week.
Okay. And was there just one teacher, or was there multiple teachers?
It was two.
There were two teachers in this. Okay.
Yeah.
In your kind of mainstream class, like when you were, if we look at kind of the high school side of things, we talk about that. So when you were in kind of in high school, is that you said that going back to you said that for you were only in your mainstream class for 2 classes a day.
That was in sixth form, because I could.
That was in sixth form. Okay.
I could not leave school until I turned 16. So
right. Okay.
I think I must have done about a month or 2 of sixth form and I left. So
it sounds a bit like me, Marty. I'll be honest. It actually sounds exactly like me. I didn't stay. I moved on from there. So I can feel you with that one. So it was fifth form, which is like, for those who don't listen, it's like the third to last year of fifth form was like the third to last year of high school, wasn't it?
Yes, and then you can go to seventh form if you succeed at fifth, or you think you've got a good chance of going into university. You can go to seventh form, but fifth form for me was hard enough.
Yeah. When you were like, when you were in school in fifth form, you were in a mainstream class. That's right. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I was. Yes.
Okay. And did you ever have anyone who would come in and give you any help in that class? Additional support?
Yes, I did. And that was, I think I got, again, that was twice a week, but not in the same classes. They would switch around. Like I would have maybe a teacher aide in English applied for English, and maybe the next week in cooking, or so they were switched around. I don't think the education system has enough resources to have, in an ideal world, you'd have a teacher aide all the time in every single class, and they would help you, and you got your own pace. But that's in the ideal world. But for me, looking back, I wish I got more help at school than I did. I didn't know it at the time, because I don't think like I had at the time. But we need more help in schools. But whether it's a money thing, or there's not enough staff, or whatever it is, somewhere there needs to be more put into education in any country, no matter what country you're in, because I feel if people don't get the help they need, they can't achieve what they possibly could have achieved if they had the help. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think everyone's going to totally agree with you on that. It is, you get given help, and I want to talk about that, because sometimes I feel that as a parent, is that sometimes I'm like, there's a kind of the balance of trying to help and trying to kind of allow Jamie to do things himself. you know, and
yeah, and that is, yeah.
and so I always think like sometimes and it's not just me, but sometimes like the teachers, I think like, yeah, he can just do this. I know he can do this, but
Yeah.
like, well, they don't need to be over his shoulders, like, you know, like a big umbrella. Like for you, have you had moments where you feel like, yeah, just leave me alone. Just fucking get your hands off me. Just stop.
Yeah.
I can do this. I'm Martin. I can do
Yeah.
this now. I don't need to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
this help
No.
right now.
Yep. Yep. No. 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 Definitely. I was always the classes I excelled at was I loved geography, and I still do. I love places of the world and music, and those for me were the subjects that I was good at. The rest of them, I needed help, and especially cooking. And that might sound weird, but like measurements and getting to know how much to use of different ingredients and things like that. And and not burning the food.
Yeah.
Again,
Sometimes we laugh about it, but sometimes it's hard, man. It is hard, eh? Like,
yeah.
But how you doing now with cooking? You doing all right?
Yeah. I do all the cooking where I live, and no, I'm a very good cook, and I'm happy to cook for anybody and have my friends come over, and when they do.
Well, I'm going to take you up on that when I come down there next time, all right? You're going to
Yeah,
cook me up a storm,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, Domino's.
So you actually, Martin, just so we understand, so you live with others, you live with your own. What's the story?
I live independently,
That's
but
great.
I also have a flat. I have a flatmate as well. But we share the household costs and things like that. But on the whole, I live independently because over here I don't know what it's like in Japan, but it's very expensive to live by yourself now.
Yeah.
I used to live by myself, and then it got.
Oh, you did.
It got.
You did. Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And it got after that, it was many years ago, and then I moved down here, and it got too expensive. And to be able to afford all the bills and things like that is a lot. So I prefer to have someone there anyway for company as well. Not only that, but to have them for company. But,
well, you gotta love it. I love it. Such a it's just awesome. Just awesome to hear, because again, my kind of interactions with you were kind of limited because of the age difference we were in, also because I left New Zealand, right? So we've kind of, I knew small amounts about your life, Martin, and your challenges that you've had and the great things that you've achieved as well. And I didn't know these things. I didn't know a lot of these things, and still I don't know. Okay. What advice would you tell yourself if you could go back and whisper in your ear?
Yeah.
What would you tell yourself? What advice would you give yourself?
I would just tell myself, number one is don't give up. And and I know it's easy to say, oh no, from the town, say, oh no, it's too much for me, I can't do it. But as you get older, wisdom comes in, and to be able to think, that people can, you can do it, and that's the advice I'd give myself. And just be who I am, and I am the way I am, and I wouldn't change the way I am. My most important qualities would probably be kindness and caringness towards people. And I always say I've got an open door policy at my house.
That's awesome. I love it.
For friends, for friends.
For friends. Yeah. So,
So,
well, anyone who wants to go and knock on Martin's door, like, and say, "Hey, like, is the open door policy operational today? Are you a friend?"
yeah,
No, I know. Everyone knows what you mean. That's
yeah, yeah,
but that's great though, and I think that's so
but
important, isn't it?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I have always found you to be the interactions that we've had when I've been home and when I've been back there with the kids, and I've just found you such a cool guy. Like I've
mm,
just
mm,
have honestly found you just to be so relaxed. I think that's
mm,
one
mm,
word that um seems to kind of come to my mind when I think about
yeah,
you, is how relaxed and how comfortable you are
mm,
with who you are. And
yes.
where does that come from, do you think? And how have you come to be like that?
Well, I don't know. It's always been in my nature to be. I believe I'm a very soft person. I've always, and over the years, I've had people along my life come, oh, you need to harden up and all that, you know. But I believe in just being who you are, and don't change who you are, and just be kind and caring and towards people, and help them, and because I've been through a lot, having to do things, I know what
Mm,
it's like.
mm,
So I guess just I tell myself what I like to tell other people, don't give
mm,
up. If there's something you want to do and you know in your mind and your heart you can do it, then I'd say
mm.
go do it.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah,
that's
it's what I that's what I live by,
yeah,
and it's kindness and caringness and looking after people.
yeah. And looking after yourself, because I think looking after yourself, Martin, is something that uh, as guys we sometimes, not all of us, I'm going to speak for myself here, is that we have to try and remember how to be kind to ourselves. And I want to kind of, if you can, how
Mm,
do you, as a guy traveling through this world,
mm.
how do you, how do you kind of look after yourself as to kind of, do things for Martin? What do you do to kind of, make you smile and really kind of enjoy things? What is it? How do you look after yourself?
Well, I look at this and think, well, I've got I've got food on the table, I've got a roof over my head, and I got good friends around me, and that to me is what is most important.
Mm,
Is and is having obviously a girlfriend who's lovely and
mm,
kind. But that is what's most important. It's having also it's having family around, and just those are the most important things for me anyway in
mm.
life. And that's what keeps me the way I am. Is
That's right.
is is my friends and is my family, and if you've got a good support network around you, then that's all that's really all that matters. It's the little things in life. I like to
Mm,
remind myself. Sometimes I go off track and all that, and then I come back and I look at what I've got, and
mm.
and um, and that's yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's awesome. And you say family, man. I mean, family is massive.
indeed,
And
indeed.
and I'm sure that and the family, your family has been again an instrumental
Mm,
part of kind of where you've got to where you are today.
yes, oh
They
yeah.
had that, and there's it is just so important that to have that kind of to have that support network, isn't it? Because it is
Mm,
just
mm.
um awesome.
Indeed, indeed. Yep. No, and it doesn't matter where it can come from, your friends or whoever. Um, but as a that's what I'm like with my own friends.
Yeah.
Is I actually believe in them. and you know, and no matter what it is, I'll just say go for it, go for it.
Mm. That's cool. That's
And
great.
that's something that you know, if they didn't have that, then it would be hard for them to do things by themselves. Some things, you know, but it's having people there around them to support them and encourage them. Encouragement is good. Mm.
Yeah, it is. So what is next for Martin?
It may sound strange, but just wanting to be a family with my girlfriend and her two kids.
Yeah, that's
That to me, is good.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want. I mean, I've always wanted to travel again, but I've said no, no. I'm of an age. I'm older now, and I'm of an age where that's actually I want to be a family. You know, I want it to be a family. You know.
That's cool. That's awesome. So
Mm.
that's the
So
next
that's in the near
that's next
future.
for you. That's great.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
I want to ask you a question which is a difficult one but challenging. What advice can you give me as Jamie's dad, as a dad who is looking after Jamie? And I have my challenges with I do have challenges with him, and I don't hide this. Is that, you know, I have frustrations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the anger comes it comes back to me. It comes back to me because I'm unable to kind of deal with situations as to how I really should. So what advice do you think you could give me as Jamie's dad?
Well, yeah, there are two things I would say. Number one is patience and time, because with time, it allows maybe Jamie to find a way where he's, you know, because Jamie's got talents he's good at. So
Yep.
with patience, it's good for him. But also, there was one thing I was going to say. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, oh yeah, and just letting Jamie be who he is, and just, you know, and you know, in this world, well, especially where you in Japan, but you know how he is, but it's that perception that other people don't know how he is, you know. But I would say
Yeah, I like
just
that. I like that. I know how he is,
yeah,
but
I
other
would
people
just
don't
say
know how he
step
is.
back
Yeah.
and doesn't matter what other people think. And you know, I've realised that, you know, it's you know, they don't really know. Like some other people don't really know me, so don't, you know.
They
But
don't
I
have the
would
preconceptions. Is that right? Is that kind of
no,
what you're
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
so I would say patience and just allow Jamie to be who he wants to be, and yeah, that's what I'd say.
all right. I'm going to take those on board, man. I'm going to.
Yeah,
That sounds
yeah, just
like
yeah.
good, solid advice, Martin. I like
Mm,
it.
mm, mm.
What three words would describe your life living with cerebral palsy?
Okay. One would be sometimes I get frustrated. Um, the other one would be joyful because I wouldn't change who I am. Um, and the other thing would be um, not on my part, but a lack of understanding on others. You know, yeah. So that's yeah.
So
3 words.
kind of
Mixed.
empathy. Empathy would be
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
kind of something
yeah.
which you would want kind of to see people be a bit more empathetic towards you. Like, is that what you?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Mm.
yeah. Those are great, three great words there
Mm,
to
mm.
use it. Is there anything else, Martin, that you want to add? Anything else I've missed out? Anything you want to add?
Yes, you were interested in talking about the study that I mentioned previously to you.
Yes. Okay. So
Just before we
what
go,
was this?
yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about this. You said you got contacted, didn't you, about a study?
I did. I think it was the University of Otago. Uh, they got in touch with me when I was 7, but I didn't know because must have. And then when I moved, I don't know how, but they must have found me on Facebook, and
Wow. So they tracked you.
they
They tracked you down.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
and which is nice because they're all lovely people. That all the doctors and all that.
Right.
And this was in 2016. They did the study, and it
Right.
was for the I think it was for the Otago University, but it was in Christchurch. It was down in Christchurch, and so I went down there, and I think there was about 600 people that took part. It was quite a number,
Mm.
um, and they checked everything, about how far development came along, and they checked your weight and your height and your functions, your heart, and all that,
Right.
and they also um, non-disabled people took part in it as well, so they could
Okay.
find the differences between the two.
Okay.
Um,
So was this specifically for cerebral palsy, people with cerebral palsy?
uh, yes, this was a premature births study,
Right.
so
Okay.
it was only the people born in my year.
Oh,
So
okay.
so it was only the people that were born around the same time as me. So they wanted to see how we were and what we were doing and how our lives were going,
Right.
and so I took part in the study, and so yeah, so it was good. As well as that, I hadn't been down to Christchurch before that, so it was
Right.
good. I got a
That's
free
great.
travel.
Yeah,
uh,
free travel. We love free travel.
yeah, yeah.
So
So now
they must have been very interested in you, Martin, because of, you know, back in the day, back in the early 80s, well, mid 80s would have been actually, um, that, you know, you managed to, you're a fighter and that you're still here,
yes,
because I think, and
yeah,
it's credit to so many things, right? It's credit to you for you kind of, just not giving up and keep on fighting, right? But it's also credit to
that's right.
the medical technology, right? That was
Yeah,
able to kind of be just to keep you
mm,
going, my man. Like,
yeah.
um,
No, it really was. I mean, I didn't know too much at the time. But what they had in the 80s isn't probably what they've got now.
mm,
So it was a very different world we were living in back then. But
yeah,
no, I'm pleased that everything turned out the way it did, and yeah, I'm just pleased to be here, and I'm pleased to be me.
yeah. Pleased to be me. I
Mm.
love it how it is a lot. What I hear in this, Martin, is a lot of this is like I'm happy to be who I am, and I'm
Yeah.
pleased to be me. There's so much of that rings out with you, and it's just it's awesome, because I think
Mm.
that, it says a lot about, you know who you are and how you've come through your life so far, man. And it's
Mm.
great. And
Mm.
I just, I honestly, from cousin to cousin here, man, awesome to speak to you. Lovely to speak to you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Likewise, it was
so good
always
to
good
hear
to
your,
hear.
yeah,
Mm.
it's just great to hear your story. And thank you for sharing your story.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And sorry if I can just say,
Yeah.
just before we go, just hi to anyone that's listening on Spotify, or hi to anyone that's listening on YouTube. Oh, sorry, watching on YouTube. Thank you for watching this as well. I want to say, and
Fantastic,
for
man.
listening.
Fantastic. Great. Martin, absolutely, you're a superstar. And,
Yeah.
it's just, I'd love to kind of do a catch up down the line and see how you're going and see kind of where you're kind of, well, you talk about what's next for Martin, like, what happens, how that plays out for you, and any kind of challenges that kind of throws your way, and how
Yeah.
you kind of work through those, because it's great to hear.
Yeah.
All right, Martin.
No, and look, I'll be interested in watching this too. I know it's myself, but I'd be interested in just watching it and or listening to
Absolutely.
it as well. You know.
Indeed.
Mm.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, and that was lovely to talk to you, Steve, and best of luck with everything else that's going on. And and if anyone wants to talk to Steve, he's always happy, ain't you, Steve?
I am indeed.
Yeah. So anyone that
Thank
wants to come
you.
forward and talk, yeah.
All right, Martin. Thank you so much,
All
mate.
right.
Thank you.
Cheers, matey.
Okay.
Have a good day.
All right, you too. Thanks, mate.